What's going on, Tiger fans? I am Zach Lentz, joined as always on Wednesday nights by Jason Priester. And Jason, we just got a YouTube member.
I see that.
Yes, sir.
Sarian's one of our most loyal
Yes, he is.
viewers, listeners, whatever you want to call it, man.
Yes, he is. And we want to thank you so much for your membership. It means a lot to us. And so, just want to start off the show with that. It just came through. So, thank you so much for your support. So, before we dive into the schedulers released, let's see, a couple hours ago, I just want to kind of get on a soapbox here for just a minute and tell the ACC what a shitty job they do releasing their schedule. I mean, seriously, you're going to make us all wait 3 or 4 months after, the
Everybody else.
release. The SEC has released their schedules, the Big Ten, you know, everyone else has released their stuff. And you're going to make us wait for the ACC schedule, and then you're going to do a 2 hour show on the schedule. I mean, come on. How seriously big of a joke is that?
Not only the 2 hour show part, man, but kind of releasing it over a 2-3 day stretch.
Yeah,
And just
yeah,
release the thing. You're already 2 months
exactly.
behind everybody else.
Yeah,
It's been a joke since it's been this way. What takes
yes,
so long? I mean, I don't get it. Nobody else gets it. It's not like people are, it's not like must see programming, man. It ain't drawing these huge rating numbers for the network or anything. I mean,
yeah,
just get this thing out, December or whenever else everybody else releases theirs, man. And I've never understood the concept of how, them waiting so long to release the schedule. And the way they did it this year, you know, putting out something on
yeah.
Monday, then Tuesday, then Wednesday, just
Yeah, exactly. It's like, they're trying to, be something that they're not. Even the ACC turning their football kickoff into now a 4 day event as opposed to, the two there was the previous 17 years. And then last year it went to 3. And then next year it's going to 4. I mean, this is not the SEC. I mean, look, I understand that, people want to try to, build it up as something that it's not, but, it's not that. People don't care about, 4 days of ACC coaches and players talking, and people sure as hell don't care about waiting 3 days for the schedule to be released. So, Jim Phillips and ACC can all kiss my, you know what? Because I am sick of this crap. I am sick of us looking like, idiots. I mean, you think the SEC is sitting here laughing? I mean, hell, they don't even do a show and stuff for their schedule. They just release like a normal person.
I think the SEC is so far ahead of the ACC that they don't even think about it. They don't even care enough to laugh. I mean, that's just how far ahead they are, man. I mean, let's get real. I mean, the ACC has been lapped multiple times. And forever it was a basketball conference. I thought they made a concerted effort to try to change that perception. Back when they added teams like Miami and Virginia Tech. And then you follow that up by adding teams like Pitt and Syracuse, and I mean, I don't know, man.
Yeah, now you've gone out there and gotten the powerhouses of Cal and Stanford and SMU.
What hey, everybody is just cowering shaking in their boots now that the ACC has added Cal and Stanford and SMU. They are the premier power conference in the country.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Show our gang gets in says he's tuned in. Love y'all, Tiger Town. We love you too. So let's dive straight.
People are
Huh?
counting down the days till Stanford visits Clemson this season. Counting them
Yeah.
down on the calendar.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. As always, want to remind you all if you want to get in the conversation, you can call us at 864 643 5336. You can also text us on that line, or you can drop us a comment if you're watching on YouTube or X or Facebook. Feel free to drop us a line. So let's dive into the schedule that was just released. Obviously, Clemson. Uh, sorry, I have to get to this. Jacobson says with the departures of Satan and Harbaugh, watch out for the powerhouses of Cal and Stanford.
Yeah, they just been biding their time, man. They just been waiting on an opportunity. Harbaugh leaves for the NFL just shortly after Saban retires. Doors wide open. Stanford
Yeah.
and Cal's ready to kick that thing in.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So obviously, Clemson opens the season in Atlanta against Georgia, and this is kind of I want us to look at the schedule, first and kind of a broad look at it, and then we'll kind of go through, and pick out the games that we are most excited for, and kind of, look at it a little more in depth. But the thing is, all these fans are, so disrespected with the excuse me, with the Tigers, these preseason rankings and stuff. Look, you're going to get your chance in week one to go out there and prove if you are a contender or not. And so, don't worry about the, rankings in the preseason or these way too early polls. All that stuff is going to be handled in the first week of the season.
Yeah, I agree, man. I mean, and add in the fact that Clemson's coming off a 9-4 season. I mean, that's brutal truth. I know they won their last five, but they still went 9-4. They took a little bit of a step back from where they were the previous two seasons when they went 10-3. I think it's far fetched to expect them to be ranked top five, top six, top seven.
So, hello, caller. You are on the air with Zach and Jason. What's your name and where are you from? Hello, are you there?
Somebody's punking us.
All right, going on. Going tight. All right, so
Try
anyway,
texting us.
that's true. All right, so anyway, back to what you were saying.
Oh, no, I done forgot what I was saying. What was I saying?
Not sure.
Yeah, I don't remember what I was saying either. My memory's
Uh,
gotten quite bad.
yeah, it had to have been about the preseason
Oh,
rankings.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. Clemson doesn't deserve to be ranked high in these way too earlier preseason rankings. They coming off a 9-4 season, which the offense looked like it still has so much room for improvement. Um, no disrespect there. They're being ranked right about where they should be.
all right, let's try this again. Caller, you're on the air with Zach and Jason. What's your name and where are you calling from? All right, I guess. All right, so let's see. Yeah, exactly. John Gibson says Tyler from the Star is playing a dangerous game on the phone lines.
That's what I say. Somebody's trying to punk us.
That's fine. Yeah. Anyway, I agree with you 1,000%. This team, you have to go and earn it. And if there is anything you have seen in the past couple of seasons, it's the voters and the posters aren't scared to reward teams after the first week of the season. So, if you go out there and you know, beat Georgia, who is the presumptive number one team in the nation, then you're going to get rewarded with your ranking the following week. However, you know, if you're a pollster, you can't, in good faith, put the Tigers, say, in the top 10 because they haven't earned it.
Yeah, I'm 100% on board with that. I think for a long time, Clemson, or at least for a couple of seasons, Clemson kind of got the benefit of the doubt in some of these preseason polls, and then these voters got burned with a couple of 3-loss seasons, now a 4-loss season, especially last year with 4 ACC losses. Um, now they got to earn that back. If you want the benefit of the doubt, you got to earn it back.
I agree. Well, let's continue on through the schedule. Week 2, you have App State, and then you get your first of two open dates coming after week 3, which honestly, I don't like that right there. I would like to see you move to week 4 or 5 just to give yourself a little bit of a break from the tough games that you're going to have. I mean, you're looking at, you know, NC State, then Stanford. Both those games are at home. Then you go to FSU and to Wake Forest before you return home for Virginia. So, I mean, that right there, honestly, the first half of the schedule is going to define how the season goes, I think. You know,
There's no doubt about that. The first half's kind of loaded. You got North Carolina State that comes to Clemson this year, and I'm with you. I'd have liked to seen that open date come after the North Carolina State game, or maybe after the Stanford game. But you get 2 this year, so I mean, it is what it is. North Carolina State's won what 2 out of the past 3 now against Clemson.
mm-hmm.
Mistaken, so that's going to be a big one 2 weeks later. You go on the road to Tallahassee. Those are arguably your two biggest in-conference games of the season, and they're in the first, 5 weeks of the season. So yeah, 100%. The first half of that season, it's going to tell the tale for what you got in Clemson this season.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Obviously, everyone's going to, be circling this FSU game. However, I think, like you said, the first half of the season, every game on this first half has the potential just to be a tough game. I mean, App State is no pushover,
You overlook
and
them, they'll make you pay.
yes, they will. And then, you get Tony Elliott and Virginia, who, look, they obviously are struggling to get themselves back. However, they did have, some great wins last year, and they started to look like a football team that was playing with some confidence. So then you have your second open date. Then you bring in the reigning, or I guess ACC runners up in Louisville before you travel to Virginia Tech and to Pitt. And so, before you come home for the Seal in Carolina. Honestly, this is a schedule right here that for everyone that talked about how weak the ACC was last year, I think this year's schedule for Clemson is a schedule that, you know, if they can if they can make their way through, they are going to find themselves very highly ranked and obviously very much in the hunt for a national title. Now, whether or not they can do that is another story because this first half of the schedule is absolutely brutal.
Yeah, I do. I think it eases up for you over the back half with Virginia, and it depends on how good Virginia Tech is and Pitt is, but Louisville could be a dangerous team. They were really good in Jeff Brom's first year. But, it gets serious real quick for Clemson from the jump. In the season opener, Georgia, and then like we talked about, App State's no pushover. They give Power Five teams fits. Seems like almost every year. Ask North Carolina. And then for me, the big ones early in the season is North Carolina State. They have made some impressive moves in the portal. That's going to be a really good team next year. We're going to find out a heck of a lot about this team over the first three games.
All right, so let's just kind of play the win-loss game, okay? So, looking at the schedule as it stands right now, Georgia, win or loss?
Loss.
Loss. I say loss too. All right, App State.
Win.
Win. I have them winning that as well. NC State.
Win.
Win. I'll stay with you. How about Stanford?
That's the one. That's the one. The new ACC powerhouse. Win. Win.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm right there with you. So we're sitting here at 3-1 heading into the matchup with DJU and Florida State. I am going to say the Tigers get the win because of their defense in this game and because DJU is who he is and he is not a good quarterback. He is a poor decision maker. And I see the Tiger defense carrying this team in this game. And so I take the Tigers over the Seminoles.
Oh yeah, I have a hard time believing that Clemson's going to go down there and let DJ Uyunglele beat them. Um, no, I have a hard time buying into that. I'm taking that one as a win too. I don't think DJ's the best fit in that offense to begin with,
Yeah, yeah,
and we all know he was not their top choice. He ended up being their only choice at the end. Um,
yeah. Yeah,
it,
exactly. And it just shows, when you live by the transfer portal, you're going to ultimately die by it. And, when all your other options run out, you're going to be stuck with some guys that you have to take just because they're the only guy available.
yeah, I'm kind of curious to see how they kind of tweak that offense to kind of accentuate some of his strong suits. It'll be interesting to
Which
see
is
how that
really,
plays out.
hey,
I mean, it's
I,
just not the player
I,
everybody thought he was going to be coming out of high school. I mean,
exactly. Yeah. So are his strong suits like, throwing interceptions on shovel passes or fumbling the ball or throwing to the other team?
to get to his strong suits, you better get him some dynamite pass protection. That's for sure. I mean, he could throw the ball down the field if he's got protection. If he's not, pressing and all that stuff, he's not going to be the most accurate of guys. But he's got a strong arm, and if they can pass protect and have some wide receivers and run the ball, it's going to be interesting to see how they, kind of put the pieces around him and see what they decide to do on offense, because he just does not seem to fit what they did
No.
last year with Jordan Travis and those wideouts.
No, and you have, basically the entire team has gone from last year, so you're having to basically rebuild everything around him.
And we saw what Oregon State did with him. They put him under center.
Yeah.
Will Florida State put him under center? I don't. I mean, I doubt it. It's going to be fun to watch.
Yes, it is. And so then, I didn't get your pick on that.
Win.
All right.
I don't think Clemson's losing to DJ.
All right. So we are both at 4-1. The only loss coming to Georgia. Let's go Wake Forest.
Win.
Win. Virginia win.
Win.
Louisville win.
Win.
All right. Virginia Tech.
It's going to be cold up there in them mountains in November. I still think it's a win.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I have to tell you, this is honestly one of my favorite places to go and cover a game.
It's one of my bucket list trips.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So we will be there, all bundled up and ready to go in Blacksburg. So, and then the Tigers go a little bit further north to Pitt. I say that's a win as well.
I do too. I get it as back-to-back road games up north, cold weather. I know Clemson lost last time they went up there, but this is not the same Pitt team. I just don't think they're going to be as good, not that good next year.
Yeah, no Kenny Pickett. And honestly,
And that's
think
the game DJ threw the interception on the shovel pass.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And honestly, I think that this year's team is going to be carried along by their defense. I think this defense is going to be a top, 3 or 4 total defense in the nation and scoring defense as well. So I don't see any reason, offense can, take games off, but defense travels. And so, honestly, it's one of those seasons where I think, the magic number for the offense could be like 23. And if they can hit that mark, I think they win most every game.
I think the offense is going to be much improved next year. I think the offensive line is going to be much better with Mac Luke now coaching those guys. You got some big time wide receivers coming in. Brian Wesco's already on campus. TJ Moore gets here in the summer. Those guys provide an immediate injection of talent. Um, at least one of those guys is going to make a big time impact next season. Maybe both. I just see this offense taking a big stride in year 2 under Garrett Riley. If they're only averaging 23 points per game, I'll be disappointed. But I do agree with the premise that the defense is gonna be good again. There's a lot of talent on that side of the ball. I know they lose some dudes from up front, but they've recruited fairly well. Outside of defensive end, there's really no questions on that side of the ball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I mean, TJ Moore, just picked up his fifth star. And so, there are some absolute dudes on the offensive side this year. Honestly, this could be, this season reminds me a little bit of the 2011 season before that season. Dow said health is on the way in referencing Sammy Watkins. And sure enough, he came in, as an immediate impact player. I think, that these guys that have the Tigers have recruited a receiver are only going to improve the stock here. I think also, you got guys like Tyler Brown in his second season, and then you have, even guys that you haven't heard a lot about, like Roman Hanafin. He's an absolute speedster. I mean, it is a scary, scary thing when you think about the weapons that this offense is going to have.
Yeah, I think the offense is going to be more explosive next year. You got those two speedsters coming in Moore and Wesco. You also have a healthy Tyler Brown, who was playing very banged up over the back half of the season, a healthy Antonio
Randall.
Williams. Hopefully you get Adam Randall dialed in. He started to look really good, or he started to flash over the last couple games. Really looked pretty decent against Kentucky. Started seeing some flashes of that explosiveness I saw in high school. And then at running back, we've seen Shipley and Maffa for the past 3 years, and the one thing those guys have lacked is that extra gear to pull away from
There's
the receivers in the
no
open field. And now you're going to get guys like Jay Haynes and David Ajamame is going to have opportunities, and both those guys have that speed. That they have elite level speed. Troy Stellato is going to have a full off season under his belt, something he did not, he's not had since he's been there. He finally got healthy right before or right as the season started last year. Didn't really participate in fall camp, didn't participate in spring practice. So he's another guy. To me, it'll be keeping them healthy. They've struggled to keep wide receivers healthy, but if you keep them healthy, I like the makeup of that room. Sometimes you can add with subtraction, and I think Bo Collins' departure makes this wide receiver room better.
Absolutely. Also, this has to be a make or break season for Tyler Grisham. I mean, with all those dudes in that room, if they don't produce at the level that's expected of them, I think, he is the coach. It's the next one on the hot seat.
Yeah, I think this is a big year for the wide receivers. Again, it starts with staying healthy. You got to keep those guys healthy. That's just something they've not been able to do for 3 consecutive years. They have struggled with their wide receivers being banged up and injured and not available. The best ability is availability. You got to get them on the field. But I like what they've done with the wide receiver room over the past 3-4 years. When Jeff Scott left, it gravitated more towards the bigger bodied, slower guys, the 50-50 type wide receivers. And now they got a little bit more diversity in that room. There's a little bit more speed than there was a couple years ago. There's a lot more explosiveness now than there was last year before last. They've got the makeup of that room change. Now we just got to see it translate to the field.
Yeah, exactly. And you're going to get Dallas Fair, Seaver, Cole Turner back. He is a guy that missed last season. And Dowd constantly raves about him, saying he's the fastest guy on the team. And a lot of people look at I in the Earl this Dowd, talk about Turner like that. Well, all you have to do is look to the last three games of the 2022 season to see what he can do, and he's getting an opportunity.
I remember talking to a coach that coached him in high school right after he committed to Clemson, and he told me how fast Turner was. He told me he was going to be one of the fastest guys on the team the moment he stepped foot on campus. So there's no doubt about his speed. Am I buying him as some, you know, elite level boundary guy or somebody that's going to be the number one receiver on the team? No, I'm not trying to sell anybody on that. But I think he can be a key component once you get him back healthy, and he can help you. He can make plays, and he can make plays down the field. I mean, he's a guy that can take the top off.
Yeah, exactly. The only issue I see with this receiver room is, there are only four spots on the field, so and there's only one football. So how are you going to keep all these guys happy?
That's a challenge every coach faces. I think Clemson mostly does a pretty good job of recruiting guys that'll put the team ahead of the me, and that's always a factor every year. You got to try to keep everybody healthy happy with their touches and how involved they are. It'll be interesting to see, once we get into fall camp next year, exactly how this depth chart's going to shake out and where some of these guys are slotted.
Yes, it will. So we enter the last week of the season with the Tigers sitting at 10-1. Their only loss coming in the opening game to Georgia. So let's hear the South Carolina game. Does Shane here have something special for the Tigers, or do they handle the Gamecocks again for a second straight season?
I don't think Clemson's going to let South Carolina come in there and beat them again at home, not back to back. They snapped their was a 40 game home winning streak last in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
That there's going to be. I know Clemson got some revenge last year, but there's still going to be some revenge on the mind when that game rolls around in November, just due to the fact that they won in Death Valley last time. And I don't think this South Carolina team is going to be. They've got some holes, man. I'm a big believer in that quarterback they got, but I don't know that they got the pieces. Yeah, but I don't know that they got the pieces around him.
No. So I am with you. So really, we had the Tigers rebounding this season at 11-1 with that would give them the berth in the ACC championship game, and that should be enough. Finishing 11-1 with your only loss to Georgia to get you in the playoffs. So it looks like 24 is going to be a great year for the Tigers and Jason Priester, as long as your predictions hold up.
Yeah, I think this team's got the capability of getting back to the playoff and making it to the ACC championship game. The talent's there, man. The talent was there last year. It's just a matter of keeping the right guys healthy and getting some of those offensive linemen developing, getting Cade Klubnik to take that next step in his development too.
Exactly. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we have the Tigers, but Jason and I going 11-1 in this schedule. And so let's go ahead, and take out the Georgia game as the most anticipated game of this season because I think everyone is going to say that game in Atlanta it hasn't been released yet, but I can almost guarantee that's a prime time kickoff. So go ahead and remove that from your thought process. What is your game that you are most looking forward to seeing, you know, the Tigers playing just from a enjoyment standpoint?
North Carolina State. That's the one for me. I get it. A lot of people will say Florida State for DJ and those things, but me, it's North Carolina State. I think Dave Dorn's made a lot of really good moves in the portal. I think they have the potential to be a really good football team next year, and I could see this being one of the first two times these two teams meet up next year. I could see them, having a rematch in the ACC championship game. You get those guys in Death Valley, you know, coming off a loss in Raleigh last year where Clemson just played like ass. Let's be honest, man. They just they stunk it up that day. That's the defense. The offense did anyways. Plenty of motivation. It's always fun when Dabo and Dorn get together to begin with. So
Yes,
that's
it
the one for
is.
me. That's the one for me. Yeah, like you call it, the frosty handshake game.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. For me, it's going to Louisville. Jeff Raw, and the turnaround that he was able to orchestrate in that program in his first year was amazing. And so, I think, the Louisville Cardinals are going to be a fun game just to watch. Is it's a team that always gets the Tigers' attention. However, Jeff Brown, and what he was able to do last year, I think that will have their attention even more. He is an outstanding play caller and offensive mind. So I think that matchup of Jeff Brown versus Wes Goodwin is something that I'm really looking forward to this year. And I expect, the Tigers to get Louisville's best shot.
I think Louisville is going to be a much improved team over what they were this year. I think they benefited from playing a pretty weak schedule this year, but man, they were so much better than I thought they were going to be in Brom's first year. And now that all those guys have had a year in this system and all that good stuff, that's going to be a really good football team next year.
Yes, it is. So that is our games. We're interested just to see from the fan or I guess, the just watching the game perspective. However, now I want to get what is your game that you are most fearful of outside of the Georgia game? What is the one game that the Tigers could have the kind of game?
Uh, Give me App State, man. Give me App State. Week 2, coming off look what we think is probably going to be a loss against Georgia. Depending on how that thing goes, could be a wounded team coming back to Clemson the next week, and depending on the mindset, they could be right for the picking. And that App State team, they're capable of playing with most anybody, and if you let them hang around, they'll give you some problems. So that's a game. Every time Clemson plays App State, that's one that always scares me a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm going to the Stanford Cardinal. I mean, I know they have to travel, across the country. However, that game is positioned perfectly for, something crazy to happen. You're coming off the NC State game, which win or lose is always a high emotion game. Then you're also looking ahead next week to FSU and DJ Uyunglele and the revenge game from last year. And, Mike Norvell and all the shit that he has done to the Tigers in his first 3 years. I mean, so for me, it's the Stanford game simply because, the fact of where it's located in the schedule. Kind of like your App State game. I think that game worries me if the Tigers aren't laser focused.
Yeah, you never know, man. Trap game. And like you said, right where that game's placed at between North Carolina State and Florida State. So it does set up to be one of those trap games. Absolutely. You always have to be wary of those.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, honestly, the thing that could sway my thinking on that game is if the networks put that game at noon, because that would be a 9 o'clock kickoff, for Stanford.
Yep.
Hello, caller, you're on the air.
Is that Darth Vader trying to call in?
It's either Darth Vader or someone sitting on the shitter and they're having some issues. Yeah. Yeah. So I think, the Stanford game for me and the App State game are the games that, we see being the potential to. Hello, caller. You're on the air.
Hey, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Hey, yeah, my name is Nick. I'm from Blythewood, South Carolina. And the question I had was, yeah, Blythewood.
Nice.
Hello?
Go ahead.
Hello? Yeah. Yeah, the question I had was, why do you guys think people are sleeping on Keith Adams? As people don't think he can be the running back number 2.
I'll take that.
Hello?
I got you. I'll tell you why I think Keith Adams is going to have opportunities next year. He's more of a back that resembles more like Phil Maffa. I think he can excel in like short yardage situations, especially when you get down close to the goal line. He doesn't have the speed of a Haynes or an Ajamame, and I think that's something that that kind of explosiveness is something this offense has really lacked. And I think those backs that have that elite level speed probably going to have a few more opportunities than say Keith Adams Jr. will. But I think Keith Adams does get overlooked some, probably due to his recruiting ranking when he was coming out of high school, and he's been buried kind of behind Moffitt and Shipley. But I think he can be a serviceable running back in this offense, particularly in short yardage situations. Man, he's a monster. I remember Dabo Sweeney talking about him on signing day when they signed him. He said, that kid don't do nothing but score touchdowns. And that's all he did in high school. I think he's got a lot of upside. I think he's just kind of more similar to what Maffa gives you. You know, when it comes to a speed standpoint, he don't have that extra gear, and he's not that home run threat every time he touches the ball. But I think you're going to see him get some carries this year, man. And it wouldn't shock me if he became, you know, kind of the go-to guy in short yardage situations.
Okay. That's a good one. And one more thing. This really this a comment, and I know it's old, but I know Will Shipley just left and everything, but I just hated to see the past 3 years that he didn't really get the opportunity because, like you always said, he was the better overall back than Shipley. But I just never really understood why they gave just the full keys to Will at when he first got there. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that looking back, there are always going to be questions about how this player was used in the offense and how he could have been used differently. I think that Dow, if you asked him today, whereas Shipley, given as much opportunities as he should have been, I think the answer would have been no, especially last year, or I'm sorry, 2 years ago when Steer was running the offense. However, last year, I think it was just injuries that kept Shipley from getting the chances. But, he is a dynamic playmaker. And so I think that, it was just injuries this year that saw him not get the chances.
I think. Well, you asking about Maffa, right?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
You asking about why Maffa didn't get an opportunity? You asking about why Phil Maffa didn't get as many opportunities as Will Shipley?
Yes, sir.
Because
I remember when Phil Maffa and Will first got there, and I don't know if y'all remember this, but you remember they was going to redshirt Phil Maffa his freshman year, but you remember I think Kobe Pace had left, and Lindsey Dixon had left, and Moffitt had a lot of hype, just like Shippy over the summer. And like I say, I just never really understood what they was holding back Moffitt for. People complained about, oh, well, he messes up on key opportunities. But I mean, if you don't get the opportunity as much as Shipley did, then I mean, how can you expect a man to grow?
I'll tell you what I think. I think
let's hear it.
And I'll start by saying I have always maintained that I thought Maffa would be the better or more well-rounded back. But when they came out of high school, I think Shipley might have been a hair more polished. And the decision to want a redshirt Maffa was more so about having Lynn J. Dixon and Shipley and Kobe Pace and wanting to stagger those two guys, Shipley and Maffa. And if Shipley's a tad bit more polished than Maffa as a freshman, then Maffa's the one you redshirt. But then Dixon ends up leaving. I think Pace gets hurt, and you have to all that scrapped anyways. But we all saw once Shipley went down this season, when Maffa got the chance to be the guy, what he's capable of, man.
You were saying it before he, went down. There we thought that, Maffa should get the chance.
Oh yeah, I've been tooting Maffa's horn since he was playing at Grayson. I've always been high on him, and It got frustrating at times, a few times this year, and I get it, man. The opportunities weren't as plentiful as they thought they were going to be. They thought that running game was going to be really good this year, and both those guys are going to have a lot of opportunities. Dabo Sweeney talked about having 2,000-yard rushers, which really, they didn't. They weren't that far off from having. I think Moffa would finish with 999, and Shipley finished with like 150 shy of 1,000, despite missing a full game and parts of several others. But you're going to get to see it next year. Finally, he's not going to be 1A or 1B. He's going to be 1.
Yes, he is.
I don't think he's going to get 20, 25 carries a game.
I can't wait.
But he's going to be the guy, and he's also going to get to play behind what I think is going to be an improved offensive line. So he's going to be the beneficiary of that. Patience might end up being his best friend, man, this year.
I hope so.
In 2024.
Yeah, because like I said, I went to 3 games last year, or this past season, and Will, he didn't have that bad vision the previous first 2 years as he had this year. To me, it was like this year, it was just like he was a totally different back. Like he wasn't patient. It was every time he got the ball, he felt like he had to score. But my thing is with the 1A, 1B message, I feel like you would never really have a unit together, because Will even said it. He's a selfish guy on the football field. So it was always to where you felt like Will was trying to outdo Phil, but Phil was just doing his job, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I can't begin to tell you the number of times that Jason and I were sitting in the press box and said, Shipley is just out of control. He is running up the ass of his offensive line instead of, showing a little bit of patience and waiting for the holes to open. You're right. He looked impatient. He looked like he was trying to prove something every time he touched the ball. And sometimes, as a running back, you have to be happy just getting the 3 yards. Not every play has to go for 60 or 70. But that was exactly what Will Shipley looked like he was trying to do last year.
Yeah, I thought that both those guys.
Well, I appreciate you. Oh,
I was going to say, I thought both those guys
go ahead, Jason.
Went through a stretch where they were pressing, looked a little frustrated with the blocking up front. And I didn't think – I thought both of them went through a stretch where they didn't play particularly well. But I thought Moffa came out of it faster than Shipley. And, we kind of saw it over the last quarter of the season.
Yeah. Well, I just got one more thing. To say. Like I say, Cade, Cade's our quarterback. Dabo said he's not going to the portal. But, I just hope and pray that he does improve, because, like you always say, Jason, it'd be dudes wide open. And I remember being at the USC game, and it was one play, what his name is?
Stellato.
Yeah, Troy Stellato. Yeah, Stellato. He was wide open down the field. And he was wide open on the left side. And he might have jumped up maybe 2 or 3 times, and Kane just took a stack. And I remember it was just like, it gets frustrated, because you like, dude, are you not getting up a one read? Okay, that's the coach's fault. But if you get more than one read, what are you not understanding?
I lost count of how many times I saw Troy Stellato running down the field wide open with his hand up. And then after the play's over, he don't get looked at, and he's jumping up and down. Hey, man, look at me.
Yes, sir. It looks like you.
But that's really, to me, that's our best wide receiver, to me personally, because I feel like after everything he's been through, him not even having a spring practice, never having a fall camp. I mean, for him to go out and do what he did this year, that spoke volume. And me personally, I felt like Bo Collins was a waste of our time.
California boys.
Hey, but I'll get back to listening to you guys though. I appreciate y'all taking my call and everything, and I love your show, Jason. And I follow you with everything you post. I can't wait. I can't wait till the football season come back.
I very much appreciate it, my friend.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. So, see there, if you are interested in calling in, you can do so. We have
give you a whole segment.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Nah, he's on to something there with Cade, man. We talked about the offensive line. We talked about the wide receivers. Cade's got to take he himself's got to take a big step next season too, man. He's got to be better at scanning the field. He's got to be better at a lot of things.
Exactly. I mean, how many times this year, we sitting in the press box and just shaking our heads at like, what is he looking at? Or why did he throw the ball there? Like the caller said, if he is only getting a single read, that is one thing. But the fact is, it happens so much. You have to wonder if he doesn't lock in on those guys. And also, another place where he has to get better is not leaving Stellato out to dry on those crossing routes. I mean, honestly, like, there were so many passes he threw last season where I thought he was going to get Troy Stellato killed because he's throwing the ball high over the middle of the field. That, it honestly scared me every time he threw the ball.
Yeah, and it's kind of odd because he's a guy he's pretty accurate with the football. For him to have that ball placement be so high on those throws across the middle of the field, that's absolutely something he's got to be better at because somebody's going to get hurt.
Honestly, I mean, he wasn't accurate in the opening of almost every game. Almost every single game, he was high with passes and stuff, and that was something that other teams noticed from the opening game of the season.
That's something else he's got to be better at. He's got to be better at managing his emotions, not coming out too jacked up, and let the game slow down for him. It's all part of that process.
Yeah, I mean, on the site right now, we are currently in a series of looking at the spring practice and what we need to see out of the guys this spring. And, the thing that I said is the Tigers have to have someone to push Clemson. I mean, there is no excuse. You didn't go to the transfer portal to find someone that could push him. So that means that Dabo, he believes that the guys that are on campus are good enough to, push Clemson. But, you go back to the 2016 season, you had Kelly Ryan and Deshaun Watson, going at it, and then you go to 2017 and you had Hunter Johnson and Kelly Ryan going at it. Then in 2018, you had Trevor Lawrence and Kelly Ryan. Then, you go to 2020 and it's DJU, and there was no one behind him to push him. And you saw the, downfall that started there. And I think you're kind of seeing that with Clemson this year. There was no one to push him and, force him to get better. And I think that if Chris Vazina can do that this year, you'll see a stronger, more confident and very confident. If he can't, then you are going to be in for more of the same.
I expect Vizina to take a big jump this year. Now, whether it's a big enough jump to say he's going to be ready to start if needed to be called on, I don't know. But I think he's going to take a big jump. A lot of quarterbacks take their biggest jump between year one and year two, and Vizina's got all the tools, man. He's got all the physical tools. Just needed a little more polishing, and I think he probably got that last year. I think listening to some of the coach or listening to Dabo talk or after during bowl practices and stuff, that they liked what they saw. I think Trent Pearman gets overlooked sometimes. That kid was player of the year in this state twice. He ain't gonna go out there and start and win you a national title, but I think he's capable of pushing you. But a lot of, like you say, it's going to hinge on where Fazina is. It's pretty evident last April in the spring game he was a guy that was not close to being ready, and they need him to take a big jump over this offseason. They need him to do just as much growing as Klubnik needs to do. They need both of them to grow, take that next step, and have them pushing each other. I mean, I don't think Vazina is going to be out there pushing for the starting job, but he needs to be good enough to realistically push Klubnik to make him better, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that no one is saying that, Vizina is expected to start or even have a chance to start. I think, that the only thing we want to see is a little bit of ability to push each other.
Absolutely, 100%. He's got to be able to do that this year.
Yes, he does. Well, I want to thank everyone for watching the show and calling in and all the comments. Sorry we couldn't get to more of them. As always, do us a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. Hit the bell notification so you know when we are going to have some other videos coming. And as always, be sure to check out the site on ClemsonTigers.com, where Jason, we have a huge recruiting weekend coming up. This weekend, you are constantly, filling the site with stories and articles and nuggets that you're picking up. So be sure to check that out ahead of this weekend. I'm sure that we'll have, more stuff coming after this weekend as Jason gets the chance to speak to some of those guys. As well as, we had a commitment today. Do you want to? Yeah, I was going to say, why don't you just hit on that real quick before we get out of here in case anyone was under a rock?
Yeah, big time commitment today. One of the top defensive ends in the class. He's a top 30 player overall. Depending on what service you look at, he's one of the 5 best pass rushers in the class. He's long. He's athletic. Gonna need a little bit of bulk before he's really ready to roll out there every play. But man, we've talked about it so many times in the past how defense, Clemson's kind of started to lack at defensive end when it comes to recruiting. I loved, when they got TJ Parker, and that's paid off already. I'm a big believer in Darian Mayo, who's a member of the 2024 class, but you're not seeing them get guys like Miles Murphy, those type of prospects like Miles Murphy and Xavier Thomas, just to name a couple off the top of my head. And now this is, you got Chris Rump on board to try to kind of reverse that trend because it's been going in the wrong direction. And he's not been in that job, 2 months now? Not even that long. And he's already got Clemson's first defensive end on the board. Kind of a surprise commitment. Caught me off guard. I was not expecting it today, that's for sure. Reading some of his quotes, I think he told them Monday he was all in. thought we might possibly see one or two after this big weekend coming up. Wasn't expecting one 2 days, 2 or 3 days ahead of the weekend, though. So get the weekend off to a really good start. 8 commitments now. Got 2 defensive line commitments, 2 of the better defensive linemen in the class, 1 tackle, 1 end. Clemson's 2025 class is off to a really, really good start. It is firmly entrenched inside the top 10. I think it's top 5 in some spots, depending on where you look. Those guys, if you follow the coaches and what they've been doing the past couple of weeks, man, they have been doing some traveling. They have been hitting up guys in every part of the country. Seems like they're in a couple different states, 2-3 different states a day. It is amazing the miles they have been racking up, man. And big weekend coming up, particularly for some of these offensive linemen. Got a number of offensive linemen coming in. Been, highlighting it at the site pretty much every day, every other day. I'm going to have another one out tomorrow. Got 5 or 6 big-time offensive linemen that's going to be here this weekend. A couple more that Clemson's after that can't be here. 5-star Josh Petty is one of those guys. Yari Addison's another guy, 4-star. Both those guys can't make it in this weekend. Told me they'll be here in the spring, though. So Clemson's trying to do a little different on the offensive line recruiting front as opposed to last year where they got off to such a slow start. Already got 1 on board in Easton Ware. Want to take probably 3 more. And they're going to start laying that foundation with some of those guys this weekend.
Yes, sir. So, as always, if you want to stay up to date on all the info coming out of the huge recruiting weekend at Clemson, be sure to follow the site on ClemsonTires.com. And, Jason, anything that you want to say, before we get out of here, any updates, any little nuggets that you want to tease? Hey?
Not really. I've been asked 4 or 5 times, do I see any commitments on the horizon coming out of Elite Junior Day? And it's hard to forecast those things sometimes, but there might be 1 or 2 guys I'm keeping an eye on. 1 or 2.
So what you're saying is there could be some shades?
Yeah, maybe. We might see, those things are up there. They've been collecting a lot of dust, man. They're sitting right up there on my dresser. I ain't had them out in a long time. It might be getting time to break those things out, man.
I heard that. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Jason, I'll see you Friday in baseball interviews. And then Jason is heading to Durham on Saturday because he is a glutton for punishment and wants to go see the Tigers get their ass whipped.
It's just more about wanting to go check out Cameron. I ain't never been there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So for Jason Priester, I am Zach Lentz. Thank you again, everyone, for watching and subscribing and liking the videos. We'll be back next week on Wednesday night for another edition of Paw Talk. And Jason will be back Monday night with Monday